Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Colby Patnode of TrueToTheTrident.com and the Control the Zone podcast. And in honor of New Year's Day, we are going to talk some realistic Mariners resolutions for the 2021 season. But before we do, go ahead and slap a like on the video if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss any awesome content. Without any further ado, let's dive into the resolutions. So let's start right here. Resolutions are supposed to be attainable. They're supposed to be something that you can realistically achieve. And in 2021, for the Seattle Mariners, that means their resolution is not going to be to win the World Series. They're just not there yet. They're getting there, but they're not there yet. And some fans will pretend that the only thing that's keeping this team from getting there is cheapness or the Mariners' inability to trade their young prospects. That's simply not true. There's nothing the Mariners can do this offseason that will make them instant World Series contenders. And that includes trading for Francisco Lindor and signing Trevor Bauer. It's just not in the cards. But just because they won't win the World Series doesn't mean that 2021 isn't a really important season for them. The team's ceiling is probably that of the 8th seed in an 8-team playoff, where they would likely be swept by the number 1 overall seed in 2 games. But we're not here to talk about 2021 ceiling. We're here to set realistic goals for the organization going forward. So let's set some. Resolution number 1. It's time to let the young kids play. The Mariners kind of officially started their youth movement last season. And if you want to go back even further, really the second half of 2019. But this is the year where the Seattle Mariners are going to see a lot from their young players. They should get a full 162-game schedule pending the COVID scenario working itself out here. But it's time to see what these young guys have to offer the Seattle Mariners, both in 2021 and, more importantly, moving forward. Now, the Mariners roster last year was the youngest in baseball, and it's probably going to get even younger this year. There's really not that many older players. On most days, the Mariners will run out a starting lineup that will have just 3 players older than 30 years old, and that includes Mitch Haniger and Tom Murphy, 2 guys who have a decent chance to be a part of the Mariners' long-term future. We got to see some of the advantages of having a young athletic team in 2020, as the Mariners led Major League Baseball in stolen bases. They had 2 Gold Glove winners and, of course, the unanimous Rookie of the Year. At some point this season, Jared Kelenic and Logan Gilbert are almost certainly going to join J.P. Crawford, Evan White, and Kyle Lewis, where Kelenic is more likely to come up before the end of April, and Gilbert might take until roughly the midway point, depending on how they want to manage his innings. And after those 2 guys, prospects like Taylor Trammell and George Kirby might not be that far behind. The rotation is going to have 4 arms that are going to be younger than 26, and that's a pretty young rotation, with Yusei Kikuchi as kind of the elder statesman. Allowing the youth to play a lot in 2021 brings youthful and new energy to a stale franchise and a fan base that really is just identifies every Mariners team with the same Mariners team for the last 20 years, which, as we know, is frankly ridiculous. Any moves made that actively block the playing time of a young, controllable player are probably bad moves, but there are going to be a few exceptions to this. I mean, the Mariners can't judge what they'll need to acquire next offseason without first knowing what they actually have on hand. That's why 2021 is going to be very important to let these young guys play. Resolution number 2 is to protect the young players. And this may sound a little bit counter to the first point, but it's really important that when the Mariners play these young guys, they don't leave them out there to hang. We've seen the Mariners do this before with guys like Dustin Ackley and Mike Zunino, and to a lesser extent Jesus Montero and Justin Smoke. But the one thing you don't want to do is to let these guys come up and then struggle for prolonged periods. Thankfully, the Mariners have a young athletic team that has plenty of versatility, so they don't need to go out and sign a bunch of, stopgap starters to help protect these guys. They can probably get away with signing 1 or 2, and that's what we're talking about here. The Seattle Mariners need to bring in 1 or 2 quality veterans who have some stability and some history in Major League Baseball, and let them act as kind of the buffer for a few of these players. Perhaps the most notable hole that the Mariners are looking to fill is probably going to be left field. As of right now, the Mariners' starting left fielder is probably Jake Fraley or Jose Marmoleos, and we know that's not what they want. Jarred Kelenic is probably going to be up sometime in April, at the latest probably mid-May. So you only need a guy to play every single day for a couple of weeks, maybe a month at the most. But what you don't want is to be so reliant on Jarred Kelenic that if he comes up to the big leagues and struggles, you don't really have an answer there unless you want to start moving Dylan Moore around the diamond or Shed Long even. So what the Mariners need to go out and find is they need to find a way to protect themselves if Jarred Kelenic struggles, or if Kyle Lewis gets hurt or also struggles, or if Mitch Haniger re-injures himself. The Mariners need somebody so that they don't have to keep their young guys up longer than they need to be. If Jarred Kelenic needs to go to AAA, the team needs to have somebody there who can jump in and play every single day without missing a beat. Guys that we've talked about for this role include Eddie Rosario, Jock Peterson, and Kyle Schwarber. The team also should probably look to add a veteran starting pitcher who's a safe bet to go out and make 20 to 25 starts in the case that Logan Gilbert struggles or isn't ready or needs to be shut down due to innings restrictions, something that's going to be in play for the Mariners after a 60-game season and a bunch of young arms. So signing a veteran starting pitcher who can give you that stability is going to help protect the young guys, and it's going to make it easier for the team to kind of manage their workload after a really short season. The last place the Seattle Mariners could stand to add some veteran stability is in the bullpen, and they've already started this process, bringing in Rafael Montero and Keenan Middleton, and they continue to be linked to guys such as Blake Trinan. So the Mariners are trying to address this, but adding those veteran arms allow the younger relief pitchers to kind of slide into less high leverage roles to kind of get their feet wet without over relying on them. So while the Mariners want to play their young guys, they need to protect them in certain situations and not allow their confidence to become shattered if they struggle at the big league level. And for our final resolution, the Seattle Mariners need to start turning the corner here. That doesn't mean they need to make the playoffs, and the Mariners could continue on their 73-win pace that they had in 2020 and still have a successful season. But we need to start seeing growth both from the young guys and kind of the young veterans. 2021 is going to be a huge year for Yusei Kikuchi and J.P. Crawford, as well as Dylan Moore and Tom Murphy, and even Mitch Haniger. The Mariners need to see what they have in these guys to see if they are a part of the future or if they are trade chips. The goal for 2021 should be to identify weaknesses in the 2022 roster and beyond. So knowing whether or not these players or younger veteran players are assets to you moving forward is going to be very important. And if they do take that next stride, then it's highly likely that the Seattle Mariners are going to win more than 73 games. The team doesn't need to make the playoffs, but it would be really nice if they pushed 500 or finished very strong in August and September to kind of show Jerry Dipoto the areas that he needs to attack in the offseason. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. All of our socials are on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.